Test 1, 2, 3. Amazing.
Okay, we may begin.
Morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Insurance Benefits and Ledge Committee for Wednesday, June 5th. Terry?
Yes, thank you, Chair Robbins. This meeting is being conducted virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Ms. Durazo, Ms. Gray. Yes. Mr. Rue will be joining us later. Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Oakham.
Here.
Mr. Green. Mr. Harris.
Here.
Chair Robbins.
Here.
Trustees Kehoe and Ginsburg will not be participating in today's meeting. Staff participating in the meeting include CEO Santos Kryman, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, AEOs JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu, Assistant Division Manager Retiree Healthcare Leilani Ignacio, Consultants Stephen Murphy, Michael Zito, Debbie Donaldson, Richard Ward from Siegel. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mics until you're ready to speak, and we may now proceed with the agenda. And there were no requests received for teleconference meeting attendance under AB 2449.
Oh, that's what it is. I forgot that. Thank you.
But I'm attending, Terry.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much. We're on item 3A, approval of the minutes of the May 1st meeting. I need a motion.
So moved.
Are there
Second.
any changes, correction? Go ahead, Terry.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes.
Chair Robbins.
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously with all trustees present.
We're on to item 4, public comment. We have some written comments from 4 members. I don't know if everyone's got those comments or not.
I did not.
Do we know?
No.
I have a,
Yeah.
Yeah, they all have to do with a piece of legislation that
Yeah.
probably isn't going anywhere, but we shall see. Is there anyone in the meeting present that would like to comment?
I have no one.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the 4 emails we got from, they're all from SEIU 721 members. Okay. We're on item 5, the non-consent items, Assembly Bill 2284. Mr. Liu.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Robbins and trustees. So 2284 is a bill that would amend the definition of compensation earnable that would allow a retirement system to define what a grade is. So very briefly, what compensation earnable is pension compensation that would be counted in final compensation for the calculation of a benefit. And generally, it's been defined as the compensation, average compensation is based on the average number of days ordinarily worked by persons in the same grade or class of positions during a period and the same rate of pay. So if you have a classification of employees, if they're all getting that pay item, generally it would be found to be compensation earnable. But on the other hand, if maybe only a few people in that grade or class are getting it, it might not be compensation earnable. So what the bill would do is, give the retirement board the ability to find a grade that, may be, let's say, a subset of that class, so that if under the current definition, they're not getting that compensation earnable item, they may get it under the terms of AB 2284. So staff kind of sees that as a plan design element, because the legislature has defined what compensation earnable is in terms of a greater class. And so, the legislature can certainly define it in more finer terms, but what this is doing is giving the retirement board the ability to do that. And so it it kind of verges on a plan design approach. And then the other thing is that the bill makes this optional amongst the 20 systems under SERL. So rather than clarifying what a greater class is, that this may just create more variations in how our 20 systems approach this matter, and that can just lead to more complications. And so for those reasons, I'm recommending an opposed position on this bill.
And that's, that's consistent with what our policy has always been on pieces of legislation like this, correct?
Yeah, in terms of our legislative policy standard, generally we want to shy away from plan design elements, especially ones that potentially can increase benefits for members, since that's generally the function of the plan sponsor. And I think you alluded to this in one of your recent monthly emails about the history of SB 400, and even I think the alternative survivor benefits provision that would allow people who say, let's say, get married after retirement to possibly qualify as a survivor. And then also, this could lead, as I pointed out, this could lead to more complexity in administration, because if this makes the one size fits all definition of comp earnable kind of different for each system, that could raise issues in terms of, let's say, for reciprocity, or for how different systems would, accept or consider another system's determination of comp earnable. So yes.
Thank you. Well, is there a motion, Bites? I need a motion.
I make the motion to oppose this bill.
I'll
Second.
second it. Any other discussion? Please record your vote. Terry?
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes.
Chair Robbins.
And I.
The motion passes unanimously with all trustees present.
Item B is Assembly Bill 3025. Mr. Lou.
Thank you, Chair Rahman. So Assembly Bill 3025, again, kind of deals with the issue of compensation. In this case, this bill has arisen from issues related to PEPRA and the Alameda decision. As you may recall, when the Alameda decision was passed, a lot of systems had to, take another look at how they were treating compensation earnable, and so they had to disallow some comp earnable items. What this meant was that if retired members had included those items in their benefits and now had to be taken out, and that means they were overpaid, and therefore they had overpayments. There was a similar bill a couple of years ago that also tried to deal with this issue. However, that bill would have also reversed course on a lot of Alameda corrections that were taking place at that time. AB 3025, however, is more administratively neutral in that it doesn't do that. What AB 3025 is doing is saying that, if certain comp items were found to be not compensation earnable anymore and can't be used to calculate a benefit, and therefore an overpayment occurs, instead of the member paying that overpayment to LACERA, this would shift that burden over to the employer who had reported that compensation item to begin with. So as far as LACERA is concerned, we would be made whole in terms of the overpayment, because we would be getting it one way or the other. And then the other thing that AB 3025 does is, well, if this item is no longer included in the calculation of a benefit, and that means from the point of overpayment, throughout the lifetime of the member, they're getting a lower amount now. And the bill would also require that a present value calculation be calculated on what that reduction would be. And then it would require the employer to pay 20% of that lump sum to the member. But as far as how this would affect LACERA, it wouldn't in terms of us being out an overpayment. There would be some compliance costs in terms of the fact that we would need to work with our actuaries to calculate that present value. But those costs are anticipated to be absorbable. And so this bill is, again, more administratively neutral. And for those reasons, I'm recommending that we adopt a neutral position on this.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Barry?
So move the proposal.
I'll second it. Call for the vote.
Ms. Gray,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Chair Robbins.
I'm an aye. For now, on
Motion-
item C, the
Motion
taxpayer,
passes unanimously with all trustees present.
sorry, Bob, didn't mean to step on you. Item C is the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. Mr. Lou.
Thank you, Chair Robbins. So this is a ballot initiative that's expected to appear in this November's ballot. What this measure would do is basically increase the vote requirements for state and local agencies to pass their tax increases. I don't want to go too deeply into how that's done, but there's a chart included in memo that lays out what are the current vote requirements and then what are the proposed requirements. So basically for, let's say, state tax increases, right now it requires a 2/3 vote of the legislature. The ballot measure would require that it would not only be 2/3 of the legislature, but also a majority of the voters. So there are other ways to increase or decrease taxes that, as you can see in the chart, there wouldn't be any changes on. But there would, as far as local taxes are concerned, for any citizen-initiated initiatives, right now it's a majority vote, and the ballot measure would increase that threshold to 2/3 vote of voters. One thing to keep in mind about this as a ballot measure is that we need to distinguish this between what we normally deal with as legislation in that we lobby for or against. In this case, this is a measure that's appearing on a ballot. So as far as our actions, we can't really campaign for or against this. So I kind of lay down a memo as far as what we can do, which is provide information on this and also have a fair and balanced discussion on all sides about the pluses and minuses of this measure. But it because it's a ballot measure, we can't engage in campaign activities on it. The other thing about the measure is that it's currently embroiled in litigation. Governor Newsom and the legislature are saying that the act revises rather than amends the California Constitution. And again, I won't go into the technical details of that, but the Supreme Court is expected to rule on this before June 27th, which is a date that the Secretary of State has to certify this for the ballot. We'll see whether that would place on the ballot or not. And then a memo also lays out who the supporters or opponents on this. One key point I want to emphasize is that this act is really changing the vote requirements on state and local tax increases. It's not a pension reform measure, as we've seen in the past, that attempts to change our plan structure. For example, lowering benefits or changing membership eligibility as far as who can be in a plan. So this affects really the ability of our plan sponsor to raise tax revenues, but it doesn't change their obligation to, fund our plan. And for those reasons, I'm recommending that the committee recommend a watch position on this ballot measure.
Barry, does this propose new voting requirements to approve such taxes? What are the new voting requirements?
So for example, under state law right now, the legislature needs to pass state increases by a 2/3 vote. This would increase that requirement to not only 2/3 vote by the legislature, but it would be presented to the people of the state as well for a majority vote.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Question.
I mean, that becomes a little silly now when you're going to have a majority vote. At least from a local standpoint, it usually takes 2/3 to put taxes on people.
Right.
So I think that's a big negative.
Vivian, you have a comment?
Yes, I wanted to know, Barry, did you also look at the extensive analysis of this particular initiative that CalPERS put out? CalPERS has taken an opposed position also, and I see that you did note the supporters and opponents, but with the pension plans, it is CalPERS, which represents way more members than we certainly do, they too have taken an opposed position on this particular measure. After reading their extensive analysis and also looking at the bill, I would recommend an opposed position on this particular laid out initiative.
I'll second that, Vivian.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion to oppose it and a second. Record your
Second.
votes.
Ms. Gray,
Yes, oppose.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye. Oppose.
Chair Robbins.
I support the oppose.
The motion passes unanimously with all trustees present.
Thank you very much. We're on item 6, reports, engagement report. Mr. Liu,
Thank you.
you're up again.
Thank you, Chair Robbins. So I'll try to go through this as quick as I can, given the time. First item concerns Alaska. As you know, they're in the process of trying to reinstate their pension plan that they repealed in 2006. They've been experiencing a lot of retention recruitment issues, but this still isn't a slam dunk, as, for example, the governor still opposes reinstating the plan, as well as certain fiscally conservative interest groups. According to the Alaska Senate's president, this bill's not going to advance this year, but they'll look at next year, and it might be expected to become law next year. Next item is about 401ks, and so the father of the 401k, Ted Benna, has been looking at this, and there was an interview with him about, I guess, his legacy. And so one of the things he regrets about the 401k plan is that initially employers were intended to cover admin fees on this, but now it's falling to employees. And also the fact that, more investment advice has led to more added fees as well due to, certain profit opportunities that plans have seen. But he also acknowledges that pensions were in decline anyways. So in terms of the private sector, and so he saw that the 401k was sort of on its way to supplanting that as well. But as far as so let's say small business owners, he's advocating that simpler defined contribution plans, such as simplified employee pensions or plans, or simple IRAs might be better than 401ks in terms of just being administratively easier to manage in that case. The next item is entitled "Was the 401k a Mistake?" So the current issue of the New York Times Magazine is devoted to the topic retirement, and this was one of the articles in there, and it talks about the historical shift from pensions to 401ks and how it's made more people uncertain about their retirement prospects. Various experts are profiled in the piece. Teresa Ghilarducci has been a long-standing critic of 401ks, so there's interesting profile on her on this. One of the things that the article indicates is that this has become more of a bipartisan issue now, as it's been just widespread recognition that the current system's effectiveness is just not serving everyone equally. And one of the things that the article also talks about has been proposals, for example, to sort of shift some of the tax benefits that are currently in 401ks to help shore up Social Security, because the other thing about 401ks is that it has generally tended to benefit higher income individuals, because those who can afford to save tend to save. There's been some bipartisan recognition that there may have to be some changes to the system here. And then the next item was about boosting pensions in the private sector. As I just mentioned, pensions have been on the decline in the private sector, being supplanted by 401ks. And so this was a request by the Senate committee that deals with private sector pension plans to the National Institute of Retirement Security about just proposed ideas about how to improve pensions in the private sector. It's kind of technical, but essentially it's recommended that premiums for the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation be lowered. What that is sort of a backup plan for private pensions, in that if the plan is somehow insolvent, then this government agency would basically provide a portion of those benefits. But they are funded by premiums from plan sponsors. So lowering those premiums might be a way to just have more people sponsor these plans. Other ideas include flexibility in allowing pre-tax employee contributions. That happens in public sector plans, but not in private sector plans. And also transferability of assets between defined contribution and defined benefit plans, such as we have in the private sector, that allow you to transfer those funds to buy service credit. So those are some of the ideas about just helping pensions in the private sector. And then the last item is also from the National Institute of Retirement Security that talks about concerns by women on retirement and long-term care. It's a truism that women tend to live longer than men, so some of their concerns would be related to that in terms of women's unique challenges in saving for retirement due to generally lower average earnings, time away from the workforce due to caregiving, and just longer life expectancies. So you can see some of the key points here. Women are worried about retirement. Over 2/3 say that it's either getting harder or it is a concern as a crisis. They also express strong support for pension because pensions provide for retirement security, and also the disappearance of pensions, they say, has made it harder to achieve the American dream. They also want more action to safeguard Social Security, and that it should remain a priority regardless of federal budget deficits, and that Congress should take action now rather than wait for 10 years when it's expected to be insolvent. And then lastly, they're worried about long-term care costs in retirement, and that many agree that the government should do more to help people get access to quality long-term care. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of Barry?
Barry, if I understood you correctly, 401ks are being pushed more than defined benefits and defined contributions? Is that what basically this is talking about?
Just in terms of, at least in the private sector, the
Yes.
prevalence of 401ks has, since the late 70s has grown, whereas, pensions in that private sector have declined. So this is just kind of looking at the history and effect of that trend.
Well, there's a reason why defined benefits, they put limits, major limits on defined benefits. But one thing I will say is that I think it would help the average person, okay, to have that 401k and also make contributions, and the employer is participating, because that's the group that needs that 401k more than the higher end. I know the higher end takes advantage of it, but I think we've got to push the average and maybe even the lower than average person who's working to participate in the 401k.
Thank you very much. We are now on item B, staff activities report.
Good morning, Chair Robbins, trustees. My name is Leilani Ignacio, and Cassandra Smith could not be here with us today.
Is your mic on?
Oh.
There we go.
Is it on? Yes. No? Yes. Okay, sorry about that. Good morning, Chair Robbins, trustees. My name is Leilani Ignacio. Cassandra Smith could not be with us today. So there's just one item that we have to report from our staff activities report to the board. We have completed our mass mailing of our retiree healthcare annual letter packet to all our members who are enrolled in the LACERA group plans. So the purpose of the annual mailing is to communicate the new rates for the next fiscal year effective July 1st, 2024, as well as any updates on any mandated benefit changes for either regulatory or from our carriers, as well as what we call the benefits guide that would actually communicate to our members to remind our members what are the eligibility requirements, what Tier 2-1 is, what Tier 2 is, and the waiting periods. I do need to make a correction on the report. The second paragraph, the last line, it says approved by the Board of Supervisors. It should say approved by the Board of Retirement, and that would be the annual renewal. I also would like to report that we did have a bit of a hiccup on the mailing. unbeknownst to us that there was an abrupt change in the personnel of the mailing house in the midst of our mailing process. And as a result of that, on the envelopes addressed to our members, there is a line that was added. It's in addition to their address, it said our current resident. We are aware of that. We have contacted our vendor to ensure that this doesn't happen again, and they do apologize for that. And this is not a process that we normally add to the envelope. And we will correct that going forward to prevent it from happening again. That concludes the report.
Vivian?
I just had one really quick question. Is that mailer available as a sample I'd like to see the mailer, please.
Yes, so they're here, and we could provide copies to everyone, and it's also available on our website.
I know
will-
it's on the website.
Yes, definitely.
I'm like Mr. Oakham. I want the real deal in my hand.
I agree with you
Yes,
100%.
we'll provide copies.
Thank you.
I just, have we gone back to them to get some kind of compensation relief, I should say?
Yes,
Are they-
definitely. We will look into that, Mr. Oka.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Just along with what Trustee Gray was mentioning, you might just consider just adding the Board of Retirement to the mailing list. I know that's easy to do, costs pennies, and then they get it. I know in another organization I'm involved in, we've done that, and it's kind of nice. That way I know the mailing went out. I'm not just told it went out, but I can physically see it. I got mine, so we're good.
Okay,
Yeah, I got it in the current resident. They haven't changed, so I was good.
okay.
But yeah, you might just do that, because it'd just be so much easier for them just to mail those things out to the board. So we'll have official notice that, yeah, it went out and here's what it looks like.
Definitely do that.
Right.
Thank you.
Your other organization is, I get it too.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item C, LACERA claims experience. Cecito.
Good morning, trustees. Okay, thank you. So the first exhibit contains the distribution of premium and enrollment for LACERA's medical, dental, and vision plans. There's been minimal change from the prior report. Next slide, please. This exhibit contains the claims experience for LACERA's non-Medicare plans. So for Anthem and Cigna, the 12-month rolling trend increased as of April of 2024 compared to the last month's report. Next slide, please. This contains the claims experience for Anthem by plan. For all plans, the 12-month rolling trend represents a 7.5% increase as of April 2024, which is a 1.4 percentage point increase from last month's report. For Plan 3, the pharmacy 12-month rolling trend represents an 11.4% increase as of April 2024, which is a 0.9 percentage point increase compared to last month's report. Next slide, please. This contains the Kaiser utilization and remains unchanged from the prior month and will be updated in a future report. Next slide, please. This contains the high cost claimant exhibit for Anthem, Cigna, and Kaiser. For Anthem's non-Medicare plans, the 12-month rolling trend as of April 2024 represents a 5.3% decrease compared to the prior period, with one individual with total medical claims reaching approximately 877,000 as of April 2024. And Cigna's 12-month rolling trend represents a 12.4% increase compared to the prior period due to fluctuations. The fluctuations are due to a small and mature population. Next slide, please.
Can I ask you a quick question? Yeah, sometimes things aren't real clear. What is a pooling point? What does that mean?
The pooling point essentially, it's once a member hits a certain large claim, so let's say 300,000. Once they hit that 300,000, any claims in excess of that amount will not count towards the renewal.
Will not count towards the
Will not count towards, so basically anything. So for example, if a member reaches $500,000 and the pooling point is $300,000, so the residual amount, which is $200,000, that won't count towards the plan's claim experience for the future renewal.
Okay, thank you.
But it counts towards his maximum benefit, is that correct? So if you got 500, the 200 doesn't count?
Yes. I believe, that depends on which plan they're in. So if they're in plans 1, 2, and prudent buyer, I need to double check, but it would count towards the $1 million max. But if you were in a Medicare Advantage plan, there's no
Right,
lifetime max.
right, okay.
Are you talking about the Medicare Advantage plan for Kaiser or Anthem Blue Cross also?
Same.
So there's no $1 million max in the,
Not for Kaiser, Cigna's MAPD Medicare Advantage plan, UHC's Medicare Advantage plan, or SCAN's Medicare Advantage plan.
what about Anthem?
So Anthem's Plan 3 is a Medicare supplement plan, and that one doesn't have a lifetime maximum either. Yeah.
I think it's only the plan, if you're not on Medicare and it's an Anthem plan,
Correct.
then that's the one, Vivian, that the $1 million is on.
Okay. Kudos to Medicare.
Huh?
Kudos, to Medicare.
Well, I can tell you stories about that we've had people here who have come close to the $1 million, and we had to change them to Medicare so they could, they would not have any max.
Right.
Okay, so you go to Medicare, if possible, and they retired at 60, let's say, or they got a wife that's sick. Okay, and Medicare will give, let's say, a 60-year-old sick wife Medicare, and then you get the supplementary, and there's no max.
That's providing to have Medicare A and B.
Right,
Yes.
right. You gotta have Medicare and B, and you talk to these people if anybody has a problem, and you recommend they talk to our insurance people because they can walk them through it and make it happen, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Next slide, please. This contains the prescription drug rebates, and the exhibits have remained unchanged from the prior report and will be updated in a future report. Next slide, please. This contains the dental and vision claims experience. For the dental claims, on a 12-month rolling basis, the trend increased by 2.9% as of April 2024, which is a 1.0 percentage point increase from last month's report. And for the vision claims, on a 12-month rolling basis, on a per capita basis, the increase is a 17% increase as of April 2024, which is consistent with last month's increase in the last month's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes your report, Michael.
That's correct. Thank you.
We are on item D, federal legislation. Stephen.
Good morning, trustees. In your packet is included some supplemental information regarding the Inflation Reduction Act. I won't go over it. I know that Amy Dunn did a great job at last week's offsite retreat, but it is there for your reference. Probably of more importance to this morning is that we received news yesterday that SCAN, one of your Medicare Advantage plans, actually sued Medicare or CMS regarding for some of the changes in their Medicare Advantage star rating, which equates to bonuses they can receive. They had previously been a 4.5, maximum is 5, and it was reduced to 3.5. SCAN sued CMS based on their methodology, and as of yesterday, they won that award, so that's worth about $250 million to them in terms of funding. We are inquiring with some of LACERA's other Medicare Advantage plans to see if they intend to follow suit and where this may lead, but just wanted to share that with you this morning. That'll end our comments.
Thank you very much. Items for staff review.
Yes, Trustee Harris requested that the trustees be added to the mailing list for the retiree renewal packet.
Outstanding. Items for future agendas.
I have nothing.
Next item actually is good of the order, and if that's okay, we'll just roll that over to the retirement board meeting.
Agreed.
And I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
We will begin the Board of Retirement meeting at 9:15.